These robots are already developing, securing, feeding this world and exploring worlds beyond. They have particular advantage where humans are limited from deep ocean pressure, the vacuum of space, radiation, hazards. When the work began some few decades ago, robotics was mostly science fiction and fantasy that all changed very quickly on the occasion of a nuclear accident. We rose to create the robots that did the exploration, then the work and the cleanup activities. These were a leap of technology at the time. They developed the rudiments of manipulation, combined that with driving machines, achieved the reliability, and performed substantial work. So, in the technology of the time, this cutting was pre-programmed, and the use of tools was all teleoperated. And it was a very big deal to feel the forces and make the grip that could move the materials. Very quickly, the technology worked out that two arms were more useful than one for heavy work and certain intricate work. You can see from some of this detailing that this was the kind of robust machine, very useful underwater and in the very forceful kind of work. Rolling locomotion of all kinds was then developed, and this was an example of going into the first hazardous waste tanks. Typically, you have to suit up people and put breathing apparatus on. And then that quickly combined with manipulation and driving. And a subtlety that you might see here is that this machine can actually fold itself into a very small cylinder to go through the kind of hole that's designed for people and then expand to do its work. Very simple ideas got easy patents in the beginning. In the beginning, you don't have to be very good just first. So some occasions when it was important for high reach, that mattered in demolition and early construction. And then really crossing a threshold. Machines in all kinds of extreme environments, and to add the beginnings of what you call intelligence today. This machine searched for and discovered meteorites in Antarctica. And everyone here is familiar with search engines and what they've meant in our time. But of course, they only operate on data that exists. And this machine is a search engine that's capable of discovery in the natural world and actually found these meteorites. So if we put 1,000 stones up here and 5 meteorites in them, most people in the room couldn't find the 5 meteorites. This machine was 5 for 5 out in that world. The technologies also came along. Here, if some in the front area can see 6 cameras with concurrent stereo, and the first of the spherical laser rangefinders, and even these walking machines were the first to have non-contact sensing, so they could see a ground before they touched, and that gave the simple ability to walk. This now matters every time we have a leaking gas or well in the deep oceans, or it matters every time that we lose a downed airplane. And of course, they're working day to day while we're sitting here. This one went to the deepest fresh water on the planet, and during that expedition discovered new forms of life. Perhaps the one that just makes the news every day are these little flying machines. They're not all little anymore. Here, the idea it was to take it from teleoperated hobby to autonomous machines. They now work in medical evacuation and search and rescue and selling real estate. And this is one of 20 that we're preparing to go into the upper reaches of the Fukushima accident for modeling. And it also records the radiation fields there. Robots will work at Fukushima for decades to come. And then quickly to master the trade, improve the sensors. At the time, it was a big deal to increase speed and skill in driving. A little wild, but of course, now the features are infused in every car that you buy. They don't see in the same way that we see. They are models that have dimensions. Usually, it adds camera vision and radar, but still can't see around the curve or over the hill. So it only fills in the model as it drives. Like a navigation or Google map, it would have an idea of where it's going and generally how to get there, but would only see circumstance as it progresses. If there is more than one, they'd know where each other is. If they're friendly, they cooperate. If they're racing, then the bets are off. Literally, I chose this one to be this time. So it's this date 8 years ago. Most people here can't recall exactly what they were doing at this time 8 years ago. If you were in court defending the circumstances of an accident, all the machines would have a story that adds up. They take all forms, some fairly aggressive, and the more capable the machine, the less subtle the navigation that's required. Some machines are too energetic for humans to even ride. Almost everything that people have or eat comes from mining or farming, and these are areas where robotics is just wildfire. This was fundamental work 20 years ago today, and now generations, just common practice to have these vehicles with automated features embedded within them. Perhaps the single greatest impact is to cropping and farming. That's true for the little flying machines and certainly for driving. I am a farmer. I farm 900 acres, 300 cattle, and I couldn't be here unless my machines were there. One of the things that's interesting about people is that you can only be in one place at one time. At some point in life, you can figure out that you can do anything, but maybe not do everything. It's so interesting to multiply a presence in these ways. Underground is another world, and so different because there is no GPS and no radio, no communication that works. The machines determine where they are by using the sensors and then make their decisions about where to turn, where they're going, how to maneuver. And this is incredibly invaluable in rescue as well as safety and driving the machines that increasingly dig underground. There is no more easy mining. We come from Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, we had easy steel, easy coal, easy iron. There's no more. As the world looks to resources in the future, it's smaller seams and deeper mining and tougher conditions. The world did not believe that computers could defeat a human chess master. These aren't just contests. They don't have anything to do with the money. They transform the belief. And they are a leap of technology. They always create big new industry. Of course, there's some money. This was $2 million, and when you get a $2 million check, you do cash it. But the real prize is after the accomplishments. This has particular impact on drivers that are very young before they learn, and then drivers like me that get to the point where they are losing some sight and skill. These safety features are just standard now. So there's this new prize for moon driving, and we intend to win that. When I say we, it would be great if all of us got together to do that. Early motivations were by human and for space race and Cold War. Now the motivations are resources, new ways for breathing, drinking, fuels. Some of the new discoveries, and this is where we intend to go, are to pits far exceeding the size of this building, and from them, tunnels that go out for kilometers and kilometers where they are protected from radiation and meteorites and hot and cold. They are future destinations. It takes a lander, and that is just a robot with rockets. This one will use green propellant, hydrogen peroxide like you have in a medicine chest, and the kind of fuel like on your airplane. Who knows if it will work? The testing uses no GPS, just cameras and computer and software. But you cannot test something like a moon landing anything more than you can test a race. You don't get paid for landing. It's movies after driving the first 500 meters. This is about the speed we'll be going. All of you somehow found your way around this facility and got here. An interesting kind of machine is one that can engage with people and utilize spaces like this. This has more miles than any car that any person in this room use. Its job is to operate in pipes and tubes, sewers and water. It is the basis of great engineering studies and a fantastic business and commerce. This is a video like the others, but not. The difference here is that this is not canned or recorded. This is live. The other difference is that it is not just wandering. I am controlling it. It is a moment where we could have gone to my farm, or we could have gone to a mine, or we could have gone to a window washer on a building in Dubai. If you see that how I am guiding it is just to give it a direction, then it turns and goes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the business proposition is commercial delivery and operations to the moon. You may know that there is an International Space Station, and always that is supplied. And that used to be supplied by government. And now it is just a commercial endeavor by the kilogram. We have that same arrangement for delivery to the moon after demonstrating the technical success. Many, many interests and demands for sending things. In many ways, for 40 years, governments have been in charge of not going back to the moon. Humans will always use tools, and those tools will always evolve. If it is the Iron Age and you are still using stones, you probably won't make it. If you are making cars and you do not embrace the tools, it's not just a disadvantage. You cannot be in business. Consider the class discussed today. For example, search recovery of an airplane, like Air France 447. Robots searched for 2 years and found it, identified all the parts, and brought up the black box in depths far below humans could go. Now, the jobs were making those machines, $100 million of deployment, all of the kinds of operations that are around that. Those are considerations in some areas where robots have impact on jobs. In many of these industries that matter in scale, I would not say that it pertains so much. Take something like recycling and how important it is for our resources to recycle. And that means, in many cases, the separation, including right down to the part level. This is just the electronics inside the pipe robot, separating the gold from the other metals and the parts. It just isn't possible to do this with humans. We used to have astronauts, and they used to go places. And now all the destinations are robotic, and the missions are robotic for many, many good reasons. Now, eventually, people will have those experiences, but now it's robotic. It's not a plot. It's not like there was some intention to take things over. It's just the better way of doing it. Robotics and things like self-driving cars are not like the Big Bang theory of the universe, where nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens, and then there are billions of self-driving cars. They are features introduced a little at a time. These robots are already developing, securing, feeding this world and exploring worlds beyond. They have particular advantage where humans are limited from deep ocean pressure, the vacuum of space, radiation, hazards. When the work began some few decades ago, robotics was mostly science fiction and fantasy. That all changed very quickly on the occasion of a nuclear accident. Combined that with driving machines, achieved the reliability and performed substantial work. So in the technology of the time, this cutting was pre-programmed, and the use of tools was all teleoperated. And it was a very big deal to feel the forces and make the grip that could move the materials. Very quickly, the technology worked out that two arms were more useful than one for heavy work. We rose to create the robots that did the exploration, then the work and the cleanup activities. These were a leap of technology at the time. They developed the rudiments of manipulation,